Stephen Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. Kickstarting a social media campaign, meeting local politicians, tirelessly working alongside organisations like the Cystic Fibrosis Trust. Do these sound like the actions of a 5-year-old? Ivy Weir is a remarkable local campaigner who I'm lucky enough to have living in my city. And with the support of her dedicated mother, Gemma, Ivy lives with cystic fibrosis. She's carved a path into uncharted territory when it comes to accessing orkambi. She's helped me send out 650 letters to all MPs asking them to take part in the #StrawFee Challenge. She's been on national news alongside her mother and committed campaigner Gemma Weir, calling for that change. She's helped deliver hundreds of letters to 10 Downing Street, calling for orkambi to be free on the NHS. Ivy, Gemma, and other CF activists have shown immense dedication and resilience in the face of adversity. Now we in Westminster must do the same. We have seen 5 parliamentary debates about access to these medicines, yet we still see no light at the end of the tunnel. Over a year ago, the Prime Minister called for a speedy resolution to this emergency. Still, there has been no progress. We have the chance to improve the lives of thousands across our nation. There's been enough dialogue. Now we need to see action. Over 10,000 people in the UK live with cystic fibrosis, as we've already heard today. That is 1 in every 2,500 babies born. And in the last 4 years, this genetic disorder has tragically claimed the lives of 210 people. What makes these figures more harrowing is that these drugs are available to relieve many of the symptoms and greatly improve the standard of living for those with CF, including improving life expectancy. Orkambi can make a real difference. And the obstacle to these drugs' widespread implementation is the cost. And I find this morally repugnant. We live in a nation that forged an NHS from the ashes of World War II. We live in a nation that prides itself on universal healthcare for all. We live in a nation that is the envy of the world because healthcare is free at the point of delivery and based on the clinical need, not the ability to pay. And as such, the UK is a global bastion when it comes to cystic fibrosis outcomes. However, if orkambi and other drugs are not rapidly added to the list of drugs available on the NHS, we will lose this shared valued status. Letting costs stand in the way of saving lives does a great disservice to the principles of the NHS it is rooted in: universality, equality and fairness. The Health and Social Care Committee have done vital work in carving out potential ways to forward their recent calls for interim access would allow negotiations to continue without the unnecessary suffering of those living with CF. However, the non-binding nature of their suggestions means that 3 months on, no such agreement has been set in motion. And where the NHS, England and Vertex remain at loggerheads, NHS Scotland has established a deal with the pharmaceutical company. This will create a brutal system of a postcode lottery. The level at which you suffer from cystic fibrosis is currently determined by where you live in the UK. And I'm confident that this was not the NHS envisaged by its founders nearly 3/4 of a decade ago. And in Portsmouth, I have seen firsthand the effects that my constituents have and will make every effort to make sure that their concerns are raised. In 2017, I wrote to Jeremy Hunt in his capacity as Health Secretary, urging a swift response. In 2018, I wrote to Matt Hancock MP upon his appointment, asking him to do the same. And in 2019, wrote to our Prime Minister, asking her for her intervention. Now is the time for leadership on this most pressing of matters. We must see progress, and we must see it quickly. It has It has been announced that Vertex Pharmaceuticals could potentially develop treatments for 90% of those who live with CF over the next 5 years. If solid, robust negotiating foundations are not established now, then this could undermine patient access for generations. So today, I call on the Department of Health, I call on Vertex, and I call on the Prime Minister to make this a national priority and help to bring an end to the suffering of thousands across the UK.